Jeffery. I'm the managing partner of Strategic Treasury. I'm here with Jörg. Jörg, maybe you could just take a moment. You're the head of the firm. Maybe you could just explain what TIS is and just a quick overview for people who may not be familiar with your company.
Yeah, basically TIS is a payment platform connecting multi-ERP and multi-bank enabled payment platform, software as a service, and we connect the customers' ERP systems with the different banks. So typically medium and large size corporates, they work with 5, 10, 20 different banks. And typically those corporates, they have different ERP systems or different systems generating payment files like an accounting system or like a treasury system or like a HR service provider like ADP or so. And all these systems produce payment files, and you need to transport those payment files to your different banks. Yeah? And the pain point typically is that you're using different e-banking tools for those different banks. Problem, those e-banking tools are not multi-bank enabled. Yeah? So treasurer typically they run around with a bag of security tokens or secure ID tokens which they use to log into their different e-banking tools. And this is old world. While using TIS there is only one single source of truth. There is only one payment platform, one standardized automated process where we connect all the systems with all your banks.
Okay. Well, excellent. So that's great background. So we're talking about visibility in payments and the challenges that companies face and dialoguing on that topic. So we're going to advance to the next slide and just take a look at visibility. Where are we with visibility? So one annual survey that we have asks about what kind of visibility do you get? How many companies have visibility to the vast majority or all of their companies? And so these are the results from the survey. Now, a lot of people that take that survey tend to be a little bit more high tech, and so they're more advanced than maybe the population at large, but very similar activity over the course of years. So back in 2007, less than a quarter, and then we've seen it rise up to around 70% of organizations that take that survey have global visibility to all of their accounts. And I think that's interesting because there's a lot of companies that are not doing it, well more than 30%, but this is sort of the high-tech firms. But I just wanted to bring that out in the context of companies become more global. They have, even though you're trying to rationalize and bring down the number of accounts you have, they continue to acquire organizations, and you need that visibility. And so visibility is important. There are challenges that you mentioned already. So, I mean, are there any other key challenges that a company has to getting visibility? Why is it hard to achieve visibility, even though we've been paying attention to it for 8 years? It's been a big element. So what are some of the key elements and why it's so hard?
I mean, you can manage what you see only. Therefore, visibility is key to success for a treasurer and more or less mandatory. So it's good to see that 70% of the companies have visibility. Nevertheless, if you ask those companies, how many bank accounts do you have? Only simple questions. How many bank accounts do you have in your group of companies? And who is authorized to sign what kind of payment? That's a very important question. Most of the corporates, even large corporates, having more than 10,000 bank accounts sometimes, it's really difficult to answer that question. So visibility and control starts with those simple things like how many bank accounts do I have, and do I have all these bank accounts connected to my accounting, to the general ledger, yes or no? Do I have a central or inventory of my bank accounts, a single source of truth? If you can't answer that question, it's difficult to answer the question, how much cash do I really have? Or to answer additional questions like, where do I have the cash, in which currencies across my different legal entities worldwide? These are the challenges. Yeah? And then suddenly, your CFO decides to acquire another company, and then you are lost, because then, especially in the first weeks, you need to be really fast to have a complete picture of the a company which you just recently acquired. And then the question is, how do you do this? In our world, TIS collects all these bank account statements on behalf of the customer from the different banks worldwide, delivers a central view of your liquidity position, and we also ensure that these bank account statements flow through our platform into the different accounting systems or treasury systems.
So a question on that. So if you're trying to connect to a number of banks, you have several thousand bank accounts, maybe you have 120 banks, it's kind of like, are you going to make direct connections to 120 banks? It's sort of like, do you have a phone for each bank you're going to call? That seems kind of crazy, and so people might be familiar with some of the networks like Swift. So do you see growth in the use of some of these networks like Swift, ebooks, Zengin, some of these networks that act as a pre-aggregator, to be able to send them through portals? And if you see that growing, which ones do you see growing faster, and is that different by region?
The Swift network is really powerful. TIS is a Swift partner as well. The challenge with Swift is they act as a postman only, transporting something from A to B without delivering the ERP integration, without delivering workflows, without giving you details which payment format you should use or which language you should speak to your bank. So Swift is a very important player in that game, but from a treasure perspective, the question is, how do I benefit from Swift? Technology is a bit tricky here. Do I really want to ramp up my own Swift box in-house, or is that non-core? Is that something which I outsource to a supplier like TIS? So Swift is growing fast, and we acquire on behalf of our customers, a lot of corporate BICs, which we host on our platform, which we use as a kind of post box to collect all these bank account statements from these 120 different banks.
Yep.
And then you are flexible and you're bank independent.
So Jörg, Swift is growing quickly. How about ebooks? Are you seeing a lot of growth there, or with Zengin, or any other network that you're using?
I mean, we are multi-channel. So yes, we bet on Swift, but our customers, they like the direct connectivity, and they like also local protocols like ebooks. Okay. ebooks is a very powerful protocol, obviously, or unfortunately in Germany or in certain parts of Europe only. Yes, there are some ebooks, global ebooks gateways from some banks which are here as well. So ebooks is, by the way, not a network. This is only a communication protocol, but it helps to make life easier in combination with a network, in combination with a payment mapping engine, in combination with a ERP plugin.
Right, just ways of aggregating that data through simplified channels. So what are some of the trends in visibility you see globally, or is there anything different regionally from one place to another that might be occurring? Europe's doing this a little differently than North America, than Asia Pac, than Latin America.
I mean, the trend is real-time analytics. So it's good when you have all your MT940s and you analyze those MT940s in your treasury system, and you at the same time don't forget, by the way, to route those MT940s in your ERP system as well. That's good, but on top of that, you should have MT942, the intraday statements, because then you can immediately react if there is additional money coming in, or if somebody pulls out somebody, let's say a cash pool participant, is pulling money out of your local bank accounts. So real time is one trend. Second trend, from my perspective, is we call it better decisions. From a CFO perspective, you want to leverage this information. How much cash do I have? Or let's say some cash flow patterns, seasonality in my operating business. The CFO wants to leverage this information to position himself as a business partner in front of the CEO or in front of the lines of business. So that's the thought leadership position a CFO should leverage based on the visibility and control which he receives out of the treasury team.
Okay, so real-time data and better decision information. Excellent. A couple key points. I think I would ask a question. What are any biggest challenges to visibility or effective payments on a global basis? What do you see the biggest challenges? Not necessarily how they remove, but what are the biggest, hardest challenges? Is it just people are getting into more countries, so there's more payments, information is harder to get because they have so many banks that they're dealing with?
The number of bank accounts customers are maintaining is really high. Let's say there are customers, TIS customers with more than 10,000 bank accounts worldwide. That's a challenge, obviously, but the challenge in payments is also linked to the different payment formats. You need to be able to deal with, as a system vendor, you need to be able to deal with different local payment formats. It's not only MT101, the SWIFT format, it's not only the SEPA format in different flavors in Europe, it's ACH payments and many other things. So the different languages, different communication channels, no standard, lack of ERP integration. And this is the package which made my life in my former career as a treasurer pretty hard, and that's the package which we deliver as a service to our customer.
Yeah, it sounds like you're describing the if you have to have a separate phone to call each person and they may speak different languages that you're not familiar with, it might be useful to have a universal translator, a single phone that you can connect to different ones. So I don't know if you have any final thoughts on visibility and payments before we move to some questions and talk about those. Any final thoughts?
I mean, technology is key to success. From my perspective, scalable technology is very important. I mean, we described the problem. When you try to fix this problem with traditional on-premise software, it's painful. Why? Because you always need to reinvent the wheel on a customer by customer basis. Every customer needs to do some ABAP programming in his SAP system to get this up and running. IT teams, they don't like it. The in-house IT teams don't like it. They perceive this as non-core. They are happy when they can focus on strategic topics instead of doing format programming in-house. Cloud technology, software as a service, is highly scalable because we connect one bank, we connect one system, and then we scale for additional customers. So it's a multi-tenant approach where all customers are running always on the latest version of the software, and we ship every 4 weeks or so a new version of that software, including new formats, including new connectors to new banks, and that's a powerful community effect which helps us to grow pretty fast.
Excellent. I want to thank Jörg for attending and sharing information about visibility and payments. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you.